There's company culture and there's department culture.
Yeah.
And sometimes those don't always align, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And to be able to hire the right people and develop a relationship, a comfortable working relationship with them is one of the hardest things that any leader can do.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning Healthtech Marketing Show. I'm your host, Adam Chirinos, CEO of Health Launchpad. We're one of the presenting sponsors of this show. Health Launchpad is the pipeline growth company for B2B healthcare technology. As always, a huge thank you to you for listening. And if you haven't already done so, please do hit follow or subscribe in whatever app you're using. It'll make a real difference as you'll get to hear all the upcoming episodes and you can tap into the library. We've got well over 120 episodes out there on all things healthcare technology marketing. And a big thank you to our friends from Healthcare Now Radio, the 24/7 healthcare only online radio network. And they also have a podcast syndication service. And Roberta and Carol have been amazing in the way they've supported this show. And it just has gone a long way to making sure that people who haven't heard about it get to hear about it. And we're so grateful to them for that. Now, today's episode is a little different. We're not talking about pipeline or AI or content or demand gen strategy. I mean, we'll touch on that. But what we're talking about is the thing that underpins all that. And it's how do you build a team that really works well? And here's the reality. Most marketing leaders I talk to spend a lot of time thinking about their programs. And, unfortunately, they may not have enough time to think about the people, the culture that they're building. And I think at the end of the day, the team is the thing that everything else depends on. And if you get that wrong, no amount of great strategy is going to save you. But if you get it right, you build something that compounds over time. And this is something I personally passionately believe about. In building the agency, it's the number one thing that I focus on. My guest today is somebody who's well known in the community and just a genuinely wonderful guy, Larry Kaiser. He is the Chief Marketing Officer at Optimum Healthcare IT. And he's been in the industry for over 20 years. And he's built his marketing department from the ground up over a decade. And he's done that very carefully. And I think you're going to enjoy his refreshing perspective on what it takes to hire well, to lead well, and to build the kind of team culture that people just don't want to leave. So this is a conversation about leadership, honest, practical, and full of hard-won lessons. And just so you know, this is also a two-part series. Next week's episode is also going to be about leadership, but a different take on what it means to be a leader from a personal standpoint. So with that, let's get into it and meet Larry. Larry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to have you on the show for a long time. We've sort of known each other and seen each other around at events, but it's good to finally get to do it.
The streams have finally aligned.
They have indeed. So for those people who don't know, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Larry Kaiser. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Optimum Healthcare IT. I've been in the healthcare IT market industry for I'm on my 22nd year. So I've been around the block a little bit. I started off at a company called Keen way back in 2005.
Yeah.
For those that go back that far, we were a little small, it was $1 billion services company. And I worked for the healthcare technologies division. And we had two EHRs, one that was built on the AS400 platform, one that was built on the Unix platform.
Oh my God.
That's
dating us.
Yeah, definitely dating us. Yeah. And then, NTT Data acquired us back in 2010.
Yeah.
And then I left NTT Data shortly after they acquired Dell, and I went to Optimum at that point.
Right. So what does that Optimum do?
So Optimum is a professional services firm in consulting. So we started our off as basically a staffing firm.
Yeah.
And now we've, over the years, we're in our 14th year of business now. So really it's digital transformation, consulting, and workforce management, solutions. So advisory, training, implementation, activation, planning and assessment. We are the ServiceNow Healthcare Partner of the Year in 2025.
Wow.
And I'm not sure when this is going to post, but we're getting an award again this year. We'll find that out this Friday. We do Workday, we do clouds, we do a little bit of everything across the board from a professional services perspective to really help these provider organizations get as much value out of their investments as possible.
And you've been there for?
I'll be there 10 years in June.
Okay. Wow. So it sounds like you've grown the marketing organization from like nothing, from a small basis?
When I started in June of 2016, we had a logo. It was a good start. Right? We had a website. It was built on the 2012 version of Drupal. So it wasn't even on WordPress yet. And then that was pretty much all that existed. There were some hodgepodge marketing collaterals and so forth written by people that shouldn't be writing marketing collateral, right? But so I've really built a department from the ground up on the basis of thought leadership and content creation as the best way to sell services in healthcare.
Okay, I think it's obvious to me, but I don't want to assume. Why start there?
The way in your career, every job you have gives you a stepping stone to the next part of your career, right? So starting off at Keen and then NTT Data, you learn what works and what doesn't work, right? How one person wants to do something versus how another person wants to do something. So coming over to Optimum was the first time I ever worked in that services space, right? Our little technologies division of NTT Data, we sold an EHR. And the services that we sold kind of were just lumped in with the price of your EHR, your implementation and so forth. And the one thing that I've always looked at is that when you don't have a tangible widget to sell, right? You're selling a service, you're selling people in the worst sense. I hate saying that because, in order to demonstrate your knowledge, we know how to do this. We know what we're talking about. We know the best practices. The best way to do that is to publish content that illustrates that.
Yeah.
So if you are publishing a blog post, for example, on, 5 things that you should do to ensure success of this, or you're going to write a white paper or something like that. So in looking at, Optimum at that point was 4 years old as a company. So it's still in its infancy. It was a toddler at that point.
Right.
And they had grown, right, without any marketing. They have done very well for themselves. So the next logical step was, hey, we need to show that we know what we're talking about here, that we have the expertise in these areas. So to me, that was the next logical piece. Of course, we had to build a whole new website, right? And that was the first part, is build the website, build the engine that's going to fuel that knowledge. And then once the website was published, then we went on to the next part of it was, okay, now let's build out the content engine. We're going to start with blog posts. And then we're going to get back to these case studies. And then it just kind of goes from there. And then over the years, we just started doing different types of content. We do our own podcast now.
All right. Yeah.
So it just made the most sense to me that in order to demonstrate your knowledge of a non-tangible product, which is our services, that thought leadership is the way to go.
I want to come back to building the team in a bit.
Yeah.
But I want to just stay on thought leadership for now. Because, we're living in this world where it's just too easy not to use AI to do it. And frankly, applications like Claude and Jasper, particularly Claude, frankly, is so bloody good at it. So I'm curious, where does that fit in the way that you do it? And how do you maintain quality?
Very good question. So, again, being in this space for as long as I've had, right? I've only had AI at my fingertips for
3 years,
2, 3 years, somewhere in there,
right? Yeah.
Other than that, right, as marketers or people on my team or just people in healthcare IT in general, we've always done it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Right? You research a topic and then you start writing on that topic. You make sure you're not plagiarizing it, right? Or you see what your competitors are writing and say, I need a piece similar to that. Well, what AI has done is it's really taken the legwork out of how you're going to prepare your content. So I could say, we need to do content on topic A. And over the course of the next 3 or 4 months, I want to publish 5 blog posts about it. I can go out and say, to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever one you want to use and work on prompts and tell it, hey, I want to do content on this. I need some help. I want to do this, and this. And then it's going to give me drafts. So the way that we use AI is we use AI as a way to draft our content very quickly.
Yep.
It's eliminated the writer's block.
Right.
But I can tell you is that what ChatGPT or Claude spits out as a draft and what gets published on our website are night and day.
Yeah.
And, I'm very specific. We have AI checkers. And I say before anything hits our website, it has to go through an AI checker.
To check that
it's not written by AI.
Yeah.
And my threshold is 10%.
Which one do you...
We use Grammarly.
Okay, Grammarly, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really, really good.
Interesting.
With it. I really like the way the tool works. So my threshold is 10%. So if you were to go to our website and pull any piece of content written in the last 2 years and drop it in an AI checker, it will not be greater than 10%.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Because to me, while everybody says AI is going to replace marketing, I don't believe it's ever going to. Right. I believe AI is a tool to better marketing.
Yeah.
So we may have 30, 40, 50 drafts of content sitting in a folder that we're going to go back and visit at another time. Mm-hmm. But whatever that draft is and what we publish are 2 different things.
So you mentioned doing a podcast. There are a few companies that do a podcast. Have you found it? What's been the value to you?
Another way of delivering thought leadership.
Yeah.
But we've taken I don't want to say it's a different approach because I'm sure other companies do it as well. But on our podcast, and we're launching episode 1, season 2 this Thursday.
Right.
So last season we only did, 7 episodes.
Okay.
But in those episodes, we never once talked about Optimum Healthcare IT.
Right.
The whole point is whoever we're talking to, I want to know what kind of cool stuff you're doing or what you're doing that's different.
Yeah.
Or something that's going to help somebody else do something similar. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I'll use a perfect example and I'll shout out a particular CIO. 2 years ago, I was reading an article, and I forget what site it was on, but it was at UC San Diego. And they were using the Apple AR headset in surgery to help them, get a little, do it a little differently, right? To have the AI to dive into that. And as someone like myself, I'm very much in the pop culture. I watch I don't watch a lot of TV shows, but I do enjoy my stories, right? And you could watch, on Chicago Med, it's actually on the podcast just like this. On Chicago Med, they created this AR-driven surgery room where it was all AI and there was like 3-dimensional things. And it's like, that's what it's going to be eventually. But that article was very fascinating. So last season, when he was still at UC San Diego, I spoke to Chris Longhurst, and we talked about all different things, but I dove into that case study because it was really interesting. And that's the kind of stuff we want to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Something that's cool, something that's interesting, and really amplify the voice of what these provider organizations are doing in healthcare. Yeah. So, I spoke with Craig Richardville last year about how the role of CIO has changed. Because when I started in healthcare, to what it is today, the role is completely different. We spoke with various organizations about different things like cloud or whatever. So we've recorded 6 episodes so far this year. I'm a little behind in my post-production, but we're launching the first one this Thursday for season 2. And it's just provided me a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like firsthand knowledge perspective of what these organizations are trying to do to improve patient care, what they are doing to improve patient care, or to improve access for their physicians, to reduce that pajama time so physicians aren't burnt out.
Yeah.
Because I'm a patient sometimes too. And I know when I go to my local hospital, I know what kind of stuff they're doing because I'm in the industry, right? Yeah. But to talk to them and understand that and their growth and what they're doing with technology and so forth. And I go and maybe I'm in the emergency room one day.
It's just a great medium for storytelling.
It really is. And it's been and I know I've resonated because we were at the Chime Fall Forum last November in San Antonio.
I remember. I remember seeing you.
And I had CIOs coming up to me asking me if they could be on the podcast. So at that point, I knew that I hit the right tone with what we were doing. So, my team and I have worked very hard on it. Matt Divineer, who's on my team.
Yes, I know Matt.
He's my content director. we kind of manifested this thing, and I didn't think it was going to get off the ground. We were struggling to get guests.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we got 1, and then all of a sudden we had 2, and then we had 4, then we had 6, right? And now we're like, okay, so now I'm hoping to maybe get 10, 12 episodes this year, but I'm already talking about season 3 now.
That's great.
And we're not even launching season 2 yet, right? So the network has picked up season 3 before season 2 is debuted.
It is a labor of love. I mean, I've been doing this podcast in various sort of 2 iterations of it. Gosh, about 5 years maybe. And I actually stopped it for a bit. And I found that 2 things happened. First of all, I went to Sway and people say, and I could, so like people I didn't know said, "Hey, Adam, how are you doing?" Like, oh, it's like, Adam. And they'd seen the podcast, or they'd heard the podcast, and then people saying that they enjoyed the podcast. That means a lot. But the other part of it was that this is a couple of years ago now. I got a CEO of a startup I hadn't heard of, booked a meeting with me, and really nice young guy, really bright CEO, and he said, "Well, how did you find out about you?" "Oh, I listened to one of your episodes on ABM, and I thought I want to do ABM, but we're not ready now. I'll get in touch with you when I am." And so he then, I think he was following me on LinkedIn at that point. But so I said, "So how are things going?" He said, "Oh, yeah, good. We're just adding $1 million." I said, "Oh, $1 million a year. That's pretty good for an early stage." No, $1 million a month." I'm like, "Really?" So that's very good for a startup. Said, "You raised money?" "Yeah, we just closed a $60 million round." We did a lot of work for them for about 6 months. And that was like, oh, okay. So there is actually, it's not just a nice feeling. It is, it is a great way of getting in people's head.
Exactly. And the same thing here, we have a presentation on one of the stages tomorrow with some clients.
Yeah.
And my intent is to ask that client to come onto the podcast after the presentation as kind of an extension of the presentation. So when we're focusing on, hey, we talked about this at Vive, you did this on the presentation stage, but let's dive into that a little bit more, because the one thing that I know will never go away is that there will always be something to talk about, right? So from your perspective, from a marketing perspective, marketing is evolving just as quickly as the technology in healthcare IT is emerging.
Yep.
So we'll never run out of topics to talk about.
Yeah.
And if we do, then we've completely mastered healthcare and, no one's sick anymore.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Wishful thinking.
Hey, it's Adam here. Just a quick word before we continue. Something Larry said really resonates with me, that being a great leader means creating the environment where people show up every day ready to do their best work. That sounds simple, but in practice, it's one of the hardest things to actually pull off. One thing I don't talk about much publicly is that alongside the work we do at Health Launchpad on pipeline growth, I also do leadership coaching, specifically with marketing leaders in health tech who are navigating the challenges of building teams, who are developing their own leadership style, or working through the kind of organizational complexity that comes with growth. And if that's something you'd be interested in exploring or just having a chat about, there's a link in the show notes below to book a call with me. No agenda, just a conversation. Okay, let's get back to Larry. So the other topic we're talking about, which is building the team. So one of the things I like about, I think you guys use LinkedIn very effectively, but one of the things I really appreciate is where you celebrate your team. And I think you've done a lot to build that team over time. Talk a little bit about that, because we never really covered that on this show.
Team building is one of the most difficult things. So when I started at Optimum, there were my creative director, who I still have today, was there, and he is amazing. He used to work and do Marvel and DC animations.
Oh, wow.
So he actually has an IMDb page of all the Marvel and DC movies he's worked on. So he's pretty darn skilled. I refer to him as the John Travolta of design, because he can do web, he can do video, and he can do regular graphic design.
Well, why John Travolta?
Well, John Travolta, when he was younger, was known as a triple threat because he can sing, dance, and act.
I forgot that.
Right. So that's always been my stupid little analogy there. Right. And then, I had another young lady who worked for me who was previously an administrative assistant, and she was just getting into marketing. But then, of course, as the department evolved, the needs of the department evolved, right? And then you realize that as one person, you can't do everything yourself. And, dominoes kind of fell. Like, there was an Epic Communications consultant who just had his third child and didn't want to be on the road anymore. Hey, come be my content director, right?
Yeah.
Or I needed someone to do RFPs or so forth and so on. And all that's evolved over the years. And so right now, I love my team. My team is fantastic right now. I mean, you mentioned Sway. Yeah, I mean, I won, Marketer of the Year there in 2020.
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
2 members of my team have won Up and Comer.
Yes.
As well, Danny Patterson and Matt Divinier.
Yeah.
So, my team right now is myself as, Chief Marketing Officer. I have Matt Divinier as my content director.
Yeah.
Danny Patterson, she just got promoted into a director of events and marketing ops. I have an RFP bid manager and I have a creative director.
Yeah.
I could probably I definitely need more people right now just because of the rate in which the company is growing. We are struggling keeping up, but we are a strong and mighty team and we work very, very well together. And I think one of the most important things with a team, and it takes a certain leader, I think, to be able to admit this, and you hear people say it, I'll always hire someone who's smarter than I. I want to hire people who know more about something than I do. Or I just need, so Matt had a history in press.
Yeah.
Right? That makes, instinctively, I should make him a good writer, which he very much is. He works very well with the media, right? I can do that, but I'd rather have someone else do that.
Yeah.
My creative director, I draw little stick figure diagrams and stuff. He makes beautiful graphics. Right? He does great stuff with video and, post-production in the podcast and so forth. And then I think at some point you just realize that I think we're doing 37, 38 events this year. I need somebody that can run point on most of that and not be me. Because when you get to that CMO level, and I've been in this role now for 6 years, is that you do a lot of stuff that's not marketing related as an officer of the company.
You do.
Right?
Yeah.
So I can't always give all of my attention to marketing. So the team we have in place, the dynamic we have in place right now, works very well together. We are a small family.
Yeah.
We know each other's kids' names, right? We know personal stuff about each other. We use Airtable as our main tool for our project management. And there's a team tab on there that has our coffee order and our favorite candy and all that stuff, because all of a sudden we'll be sitting here, at a trade show, and one of my team members, well, here's a coffee for you. And I know exactly the coffee I'm going to get is exactly how I like it.
Right.
Right. I used with almond milk and stevia.
Yeah.
They all know that. And I know what coffee they drink, what tea they like. So it's been hard to find that right dynamic, because there's been, people have come, people have gone.
Mm-hmm.
I take a lot of pride in when someone leaves and say, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm going to take a new opportunity, but I can only take this opportunity because of how you helped me get here.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel really good. And, I've had people get let go, for a number of reasons. And they'll say, this really stinks, but whether you're here at Optimum or someplace else, if you ever need me again, you call me, I'll come work for you again.
That's great.
Right. I feel really good about that.
Yeah.
And I would say right now, every member of my team probably falls into that category. We have a really good dynamic, and trying to find somebody new is the hard part.
But it is a difference between management and leadership, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, because I think, I've come to learn that leadership is about creating an environment. I want to share something that I learned from somebody else, and I've absolutely believe this to be true, is that as the leader, your job is to create the environment where people come to work every day saying, I'm going to do my best work.
Yeah.
I'm in the right place for me.
The culture, there's company culture and there's department culture.
Yeah.
And sometimes those don't always align, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And to be able to hire the right people and develop a comfortable working relationship with them is one of the hardest things that any leader can do.
Yeah.
And then when you have to go off and find somebody else that, yes, you may be qualified, but are you a fit for our team culture? That's also extremely complicated. And I just went through that. Last year I needed to hire a new RFP writer. And the first person I hired seemed really good on paper, interviewed well, but in the end didn't really work out. And then went an extra step and found somebody else who had been in the industry and worked for some competitors. And I'm friendly with those people. And I reached out and they give me their opinion. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to give this a try. I think that person might work. And the person we hired, she slid right in. and she has become an integral member of our team, and she understands our warped dynamic.
Yeah.
You know? So
culture fit is incredibly
it's very, very difficult. And sometimes you don't learn it until because in this world we live in now, everybody's, we're a hybrid company. I mean, I live 16 miles from the office, and I probably go in once a week, once every 2 weeks, because I get more done in my home office. Right. But, when we come to a trade show and I have a couple of them with me, and if I've never met them in person, because some of that has happened, I've never met my RFP writer in person. I'm on Teams with her every single day. Yeah. We talk, we see each other, we talk on the phone, but I've never met her in person. Yeah. Until you can kind of go and travel with those people, there's a little bit of a kind of an awkwardness at first until you see, does our remote culture translate to in-person culture? And you quickly find out yes or no. Yeah. And thankfully they did, so.
I have 2 members of my team who I work with, and I started working with them during COVID. Well, at least one of them during COVID, one a bit afterwards. And we're just very comfortable working remotely. In the end, it was like, okay, I better have let's just have an annual meeting and we'll all meet. Because it's like, I feel like I've been working with you guys for 3 years. And I've never I didn't know how tall you were. Everybody's taller than me. So that's
yeah. And one of my team members is here now, has never met our CEO. Met him for the first time today. Yeah. He knows him, right? They talk. They text, they talk on the phone because, he handles his LinkedIn. He'll post something for him sometime or whatever, but they never met face to face before.
I feel that there's, it's a sort of obvious thing, right? But I think that what's happening with events is it's becoming like, it's the reason people go is to actually be in person, because there is no, there's no substitute for that.
There isn't. And I see a lot of people struggle with this in healthcare. Healthcare is a relationship-driven business.
Very much so.
I actually was just talking to somebody about this earlier. I probably get 10 or 15 phone calls or emails or LinkedIn messages every week from people wanting to sell me lead generation services. And I actually will answer the call and return the email because look, you may be fantastic at your job, but what you're selling does not work in this industry. And they will tell me till they're blue in the face that it is. I'm like, nope, because you can't develop the relationship. Yeah. And in this business, relationship is probably the number one driver in healthcare IT. And from that, you get the advocacy that you're looking for from the people that you work with. And we invest a lot of money in events to get that face-to-face, to build those relationships, to interact with people face-to-face, because that is worth its price in gold.
Larry, I think that is a great place to end this. Wonderful, wonderful, wise words. Really enjoyed talking to you. And
thanks for having me on.
Hearing about your thoughts on thought leadership, but also about, how you've built the team. Really special.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry. All right. Let me bring this one home with some conclusions. I've got 4 takeaways from my conversation with Larry. Number 1, hire people smarter than you and mean it. Larry has deliberately built a team where every member knows more about the domain than he does. And honestly, building Health Launchpad, I've done the same. That's not humility for its own sake. It's the only way to build something that actually scales. Takeaway 2, culture fit is not a soft criterion. It's a hard one. Qualifications get someone in the door, but culture fit determines whether they stay, contribute, and make the team better. Larry learned this the hard way, and it's shaped how he hires now. Takeaway 3, department culture and company culture are not the same thing. And that's okay. As a leader, your job is to build the microculture your team needs to thrive, even when the broader organization is still figuring itself out. Number 4, in healthcare, relationships are the competitive advantage. Inside your team and in the market, relationships matter more than anything else in many regards. Larry invests heavily in events, not for leads, but for face-to-face relationships that everything else is built on. And that's the long game, and that's how it works. If today's conversation's got you thinking about your own team or your own relationships, I'd love to hear from you. There's a link in the show notes below to book a call. And whether that's about pipeline, ABM, team building, content, marketing strategy, or just comparing notes on what's working, I'd love to have a conversation with you. And by the way, please hit follow if you haven't already. And if this episode was useful, share it with a colleague or fellow marketing leader who will find this useful. And just a quick reminder, next week's episode is also about leadership. Who you're going to hear from is Eric Johnson and Stephanie Whiting, who are going to go deep into what it takes to be a marketing leader. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.